Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ IAS English channel. My name is Shubham Sagar and today we'll be starting early medieval India. So what we have done, we have talked about ancient India in the previous lectures and then we introduced the art and culture part, and now we are back to the core history, that is early medieval India. We'll talk about the chronology in just few moments from now. Before that, I have told you, I think in the previous lecture only, that every day we'll have at least 10 questions, which will be a combination of PYQs and practice questions. Day before yesterday, we had 10 questions which were all PYQs. Yesterday, we had a combination of PYQs and practice question. Same thing I will follow today. I will give you 10 practice questions. Instead of giving you all at the end, what we will be taking it whenever we are getting bored, Just give me a second. Day before yesterday. So yes, sir. So before we talk about early medieval India, feudalism, tripartite struggle, Pala Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas, Arab conquest of Sindh, how Gujra Pratihara played a crucial role in stopping them. We will talk about all of these things. Before we talk about that, before we talk about the chronology, let's first start with the first question. It's also like a revision of yours, and you have to do revision because as we will keep on moving forward, today is lecture 13, right? So we have done 12 lectures. You should not be forgetting them. And these questions are a way to ensure that you're not forgetting your previous concept. So see the first question: with respect to Nanda dynasty, which ruled Magad, consider the following statement. First, it was established by Kala Shoka. Second, Alexander's invasion of India occurred during the reign of Mahapadmananda. Third, it achieved the conquest of province of Kalinga. How many of the statements given above are correct? A, 1 only, B, 2 only, C, all 3, D, none. People generally, good evening Sundaram, people generally hate these kind of questions, so you have to solve more of them, the more you practice in peace, or the less you bleed in war, something like that is there, right? The quotation. So yes, let's practice in peace so that you bleed less in war. So what is the answer of this question related to Nanda dynasty? How many of the above statements are correct? 1 only, 2 only, all 3, or none? You can post it in the comment section. I'm waiting for your answer. So the question will start becoming, little tougher. The mix of tough and easy, again, based on UPSC pattern, because here we are here primarily for UPSC, right? So Umesh has given the answer for this particular question. So the first answer I get, I will start discussing the particular question. So yes, sir, with respect to Nanda dynasty, it was not established by Kala Shoka. Kala Shoka, if you remember, and if you go back and revise Magadha, you revise Mahajanpads, you will realize that Kala Shoka belongs to Shishunaga dynasty. Again, revise the Mahajanpad lecture. So first statement is wrong. It was established by Mahapadmananda. Alexander invasion of India occurred during the reign of Mahapadmananda. No, it occurred during the reign of Dhananand, who was, people did not like him much. We have talked about Dhananand. Second statement is also wrong. And the third statement is Nanda dynasty achieved the conquest of province of Kalinga. It is said about Nanda dynasty that they were one of the earliest dynasties which ruled over a large part of India. And yes, they did conquer Kalinga. So the answer is A, 1 only. Third is correct and answer is A, 1 only. None of the answers were correct. None of the people who answered, the answers were correct, and that is actually good. If you all give the correct answer, that means the questions are easy. And we have to solve tough questions, and it's not that tough. Again, if you go back and revise the concept, you will realize that we have discussed all these things. Third statement is correct. The first and second statement are wrong. Second Buddhist council, Kala Shoka, as Umesh is saying. Very good here. So Magadha, and again, this is a previous slide which I have taken out from the Magadha and Mahajanpad lecture which we had done earlier. First Nanda king was Mahapadmananda, not Dhananand or Kala Shoka, whatever they have written. And then what else? Hathi Gumfa inscription of Khadavela. Khadavela gave patronage to which particular religion? Posted in the comment section. Nandas are sometimes described as the first empire builders. We have discussed this. Last king was Dhananand, and they have also conquered Kalinga. Hathi Gumfa inscription of Kalinga or Khadavela refers to the conquest of Kalinga. So third statement was correct, first and second was wrong. This question was tough. Even if you have not got it correct, it's fine. If anybody who watches this video later also, if you get this particular question correct, you can write it separately that I got first question correct. That was not too tough for me. So let's continue our discussion. So we have to talk about early medieval India. If we go back, what we have discussed earlier, we have talked about the chronology per se. When we were talking about ancient India, we have discussed the chronology that ancient India starts from Stone Age to 750 AD. Right? And then the current topic which we are discussing is early medieval India. Early medieval India, which is 750 AD to 1200 AD. And then from here onwards, we'll go to medieval India. Let me write it like MI, and that is from 1200 AD to 1757 AD. Some people also say from 1206 AD to 1757 AD, from the establishment of Delhi Sultanate. So we are here, we are at early medieval India. So we are at a time period when Harsha's reign has ended. Harsha's reign has ended, and it is said about early medieval India, this particular period, that unlike the earlier ancient India, where you had certain degree of centralization, you will witness now decentralization in India, especially in northern India. And our current discussion will be hovering mostly around northern India, although it will also include Rashtrakutas, which were ruling over southern India. So more or less, if you see this particular period and you remove the exceptions like Cholas, who were again ruling over a certain portion, you see in early medieval India decentralization, increase of feudalism, increase of intermediaries between king and the subjects. So these are the points which you have to keep in mind. Just give me a second. So yes, sir. So let's start the discussion now. Again, don't forget the chronology. These chronologies are actually very important. So we have discussed this particular first question. This was a tough question, and that is fine if you're not getting this particular question correct. Just make sure that next time if you witness any similar kind of question, you don't do that particular question wrong. So early medieval India, transitory period, transitory period from ancient to medieval India, right? So we'll talk about medieval India, we'll talk about Delhi Sultanate, and how, again, there is a very interesting observation rather, that in early medieval period you will see feudalism. What is feudalism? We have talked about it a little bit. Today we'll talk about it in detail, and how Indian feudalism is different from European feudalism, and what are the similarities between Indian feudalism and European feudalism, and why it is important from our exam perspective. UPSC has directly asked question on feudalism. This particular discussion will help you in pre as well as in main, so we have to keep that point in mind. So we'll talk about this feudalism, how feudalism works more when you have decentralization. But when Delhi Sultanate arrived, which led to centralization, feudalism will start decreasing to a certain extent. Why it happens in that way, we'll talk about it later on. So let's start the discussion. So early medieval India. What is meant by early medieval? Now, see, please understand this thing. The chronology, when the colonial people arrived here, Britishers arrived here, Portuguese arrived here. So they have this nomenclature, ancient history, medieval history, modern history. Even if you look at the nomenclature, we talk about modern history, that it started from 1757 AD to 1947 AD, 1757 AD, Battle of Plassey. EIC won this battle and they brought modernity here. So all these classification, ancient history, medieval history, modern history, we are reading it from British perspective. This is a colonial legacy. You have to understand this, what I'm discussing here. This whole classification of ancient, medieval and modern, this is a colonial legacy. So be ready if in future some, government comes and they change this whole definition of ancient, medieval and history, means modern history. When we are talking about medieval history also, have a look at it. We are talking about early medieval India from 750 AD, and then medieval period from 1200 or 1206 AD to 1757 AD. 1206 AD, Delhi Sultanate established, Muslim invasion, Modern history, 1757, Battle of Plassey. EIC is here to stay, Europeans are here to stay. Ancient history, initially it used to begin from Aryan invasion, or Aryan invasion of Hadappans, but now we know that ancient history goes far back. So again, you can see a tinge of colonialism or even communalism in the demarcation, how Britishers divide this period. This is just like, I will give you another example. So again, what I'm telling you is, in future, there is a possibility that we redefine the definition of ancient, medieval and modern India, and you cannot ignore that. So we are talking about colonial legacy. When we are talking about this ancient, medieval and modern period demarcation, this is a colonial legacy. We are just following what colonial historians left behind us, and there is still a debate. Another point of colonial legacy I will tell you, when we talk about forest cover, when we talk about how much forest cover we should have in our country. Anybody having any idea how much forest cover? Good evening, sir. आज का topic क्या है? Today's topic is early medieval India. So here we are trying to understand how they are demarcating ancient medieval and modern India and how it has a colonial legacy tinge to it. So when we talk about forest cover, we generally say in India, we should have 33% forest cover. Why 33% forest cover? Why not 30% forest cover? Why not 40% means forest cover? From where we have got this particular golden number that 33% forest cover is the, optimal forest cover which India should have. I will tell you the reason behind it. See, Britishers ruled over us. In Europe, there was this particular, convention that in Europe, we will have 33% forest cover. Europe, in like those countries which we are talking about, Britain, etc., they lie mostly in temperate region, So they had this 33% forest cover. When they came here, they implemented this particular thing that in our region we have 33% forest cover. So here also we'll implement 33% forest cover. This is again a colonial legacy. You have to look at the climate, bro. We are predominantly in tropical region. They are in temperate region. So we have to also see our environment, whether 33% is the optimal number or it should be something else altogether. Here history and environment is merging because we are talking about colonial legacy. So please understand this. There is no scientific, data that yes, 33% forest cover is the best in our country. No. So you have to understand this. Fine. So colonial legacy, history, environment meeting. Just remember one more nomenclature which is important from your exam perspective. NAPCC. Fine. So NAPCC is National Action Plan on Climate Change. It has 8 missions under it. So as some people said that, sir, you will be only teaching history. See here what is happening. History and environment are merging. So NAPCC, 8 missions. Please remember them. They are very important. National Action Plan on Climate Change. Why this particular topic arrived? Because we talked about colonial legacy. From there we went to forest cover. How that is also a colonial legacy. And now we are talking about NAPCC 8 missions. Anybody knows the nomenclature? How you will remember these 8 missions? These 8 missions are important from pre, mains, interview, every perspective. Anybody having any idea? How will you remember the nomenclature of 8 missions? The mnemonic is Sehwag HK. Sehwag HK. Solar mission, National Mission for Enhanced Energy Efficiency. H is National Mission for Sustainable Habitat. W is Water Mission. A is Agriculture Mission. G is Green India Mission, which caters to this 33% forest cover. H is National Mission for Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystem, and K is National Mission for Strategic Knowledge on Climate Change. So please remember these 8 missions. Your homework is to remember these 8 missions. They are very important from every exam perspective. So please combine all videos of ancient in one shot. We can do that, but again, they are there lecture wise only, so you can have a look at this follower. Fine. So let's start the discussion what we are doing right now. So we're talking about this particular time period. Don't go. There is no hard and fast rule why they have classified what they have classified. So now, what is meant by early medieval? But whatever we are realizing, if this particular period, 750 AD to 1200 AD, which is also based on Upinder Singh's ancient and early medieval India. So here you will see, like earlier in ancient India, you were seeing centralization. Here you will be seeing decentralization. That's what they are saying. In ancient India, you had seen centralizing feature, Mauryan Empire, Gupta Empire, even to a certain extent, Vardhana dynasty, Harsha. But now you are seeing, or you will be seeing decentralized empire. Pala, they are ruling over a particular region. Gujara Pratihara are ruling over a particular region. Rashtrakutas are ruling over a particular region. Later on, they will get like broken apart. You will have Paramaras, you will have Chandelas, you will have different dynasties. Each of them are ruling over a certain area. Decentralization. Regional polities will emerge. And because of this, king will become little weaker compared to the ancient Indian rulers. And that will lead to more and more intermediaries between king and subjects and rise of feudal lords. That is what will lead to feudalism. We'll talk about what is feudalism. Fine. And also please remember, when we are talking about ancient India per se, okay, so when we are talking about ancient India, so what we have discussed in ancient India, here see the term agrarian. So when we are talking about ancient India, we have talked about Indo-Roman trade, how flourishing towns were there. It means Indus Valley civilization, first urbanization. Then you had second urbanization around 6th century BC, all these things. So, but now when we are talking about early medieval period, I have given you the hint earlier also that during this period, transitioning from 650 AD to 750 AD, 800, there were certain towns which witnessed de-urbanization. Ahit, Chhatra, Kaushambi, etc. They were earlier towns. They later on got converted into agrarian center because trade died. Why trade died? Because Indo-Roman trade ended to a certain extent. Guptas were having trade with Byzantine Empire, again revised Gupta period. Byzantine Empire were the Eastern Roman Empire. They were having this trade, but Hunas played a crucial role in breaking apart this particular trade. And all these trade, when they ended, so what will happen? We know when we talk about urban area, almost 75% or more people should be involved in non-agricultural activities. When you don't have non-agricultural activities like trade, what will happen? You have to go back to your villages and city will die. That's what happened, and that's what they are saying. So in this early medieval period, you will see agrarian structure in in different ways, and that also leads to a phenomena which is known as closed economy. We'll talk about it in few moments from now. So let's continue the discussion. So now here, when we are talking about this period, early medieval India. So early medieval India is 750 to 1200 AD. So it has to, or it can be divided into two parts, 750 to 1000 AD, when you have this particular tripartite struggle over Kannauj, where Pala Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas, they are fighting over Kannauj. Why they are fighting over Kannauj? Because if you remember, and if you go back before the art and culture lecture, you will remember that we have talked about Harsha changing the capital. His capital was Thanesar, he changed it to Kannauj, and Harsha created a good empire. He was Saklottar Pathnatha, lord of Uttar Path, right? So the center of attraction, which was the center of attention also, which was earlier Patliputra, has now shifted to Kannauj. It has become a center of prestige and pride. So now these three kingdoms will be fighting for Kannauj. There are multiple other reasons why people are fighting for Kannauj. One is prestige. Second, Kannauj is located, it is also known as Kanya Kubja. Kanya Kubja is the old name of Kannauj. Please remember it. It was located in central Gangetic Valley. It has resources. It was also located on the Uttar Path. So it was, means some amount of trade, whatever was happening through Kannauj. And again, loot, plundering. Plundering, whenever war happens, plundering happens, loot happens. So there are multiple reasons why these guys were fighting over Kannauj. Fertile land, as Dark is saying. So now if I ask, you will have a discussion over all these kingdoms, Palas, Gujara Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas, the important kings, their contribution. But let's say, I believe that some of you may have read something about it, or just take a guess. Out of these three, who won this particular tripartite struggle? Any idea, anyone? Out of these three, Pala, Pratihara and Rashtrakutas, who was the victor, dynasty or victor kingdom out of these three? Who defeated the other two? Final victory, because they will keep on fighting for this 250 years, and one victor will emerge, one major kingdom will emerge as the... Who was that kingdom who won out of Gujaras, Pratiharas, Palas and Rashtrakutas? Take a guess. Any guess? I will give you 10 seconds. As Dark is saying, Gujara Pratihara won. This whole battle was won by Gujara Pratihara. But in reality, nobody won. Even after winning this Gujara Pratihara battle, means this battle Gujara Pratihara won. But what will happen? After this particular battle, this whole struggle, all three will become very weak. So Palas will be succeeded by Sena and other dynasties. Rashtrakutas will again fragment and Chalukyas will emerge. Gujara Pratihara will got divided into different principalities, from where Rajput principalities will emerge. So nobody won in reality. There is a saying in Bajigar, haar ke jeetne wale ko Bajigar kehte hain, that even if you win, but in reality even if you lose, but in reality you win, you are a Bajigar. But here, even though Gujara Pratihara won, they lost in reality, because they will get broken apart now because of the weaknesses which came into their empire because of all these fightings. We'll talk about it later on. Fine. And then the second part will be there. What is the second part? Because they all became weak, so finally they will break apart and other principalities will come. We'll talk about them. So please, like we have discussed earlier in the previous lectures also, whenever we are reading any particular topic, maps should be your primary source, history through maps. And that's what I try to do. Like most of the lectures, try to, have a map, like look at this map, and via this map, try to solve most of the questions related to early medieval India. especially the 750 to 900 or 750 to 1000 AD portion. So if you see Palas, see here. So again, let's rewind. So when we talk about Palas, you will see around 750 or something, like they rule for around 400 years, 750 AD something. There will be a Pala dynasty. And if we go back, who were ruling before Palas? So Harsha was here, Harsha was not here. Guptas were ruling much before that. So there was a guy, we have talked about him, he was from Gauda dynasty called Shashank. Shashank, he was from like 606 to 637 AD approximately. So during the period when Harsha was there in this particular Kannauj area, near the Palas, this Shashank Gauda dynasty, they were ruling over this particular area, the Pala area. When Shashank died, nobody wanted to become the ruler per se. They were all ruling in small principalities. So it is said that the Pala ruler, the Pala founder, Gopala, he reluctantly became the king. He did not want to become the king. Other people pressurized him to become the king. So Gopala became the founder of Palas. And then after Gopala, Dharampala came, who is actually a very important ruler of Pala dynasty. My intention here is, when I'm showing you this particular map, the purpose is the more you see this map, the better you will become in this particular area and the discussion will go on. So Dharampala, he is very important ruler when it comes to Pala dynasty, because we all know he established one particular university. Which particular university he established? Anyone having any idea? And again, we'll do some theory and then we'll solve some questions. We have done one question. We still have to solve 9 questions. Dharampala established which particular university? Very good. As Umesh is saying, Vikramshila University he established Dharampala. And it is said that he suffered defeat like from Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas, but still he consolidated his own empire. Fine. So Dharampala, and after that there will be some weak rulers, and you don't have to do PhD here. Gopala and Dharampala, they are important. Pala architecture developed here. Now if we talk about Gurjara Pratihara, have a look at Gurjara Pratiharas and have a look at Arab. We'll talk about Arab invasion, we'll talk about origin and rise of Rajputs later on. So Arabs, you may have heard this, you may have heard it from like your childhood, that in 712 AD, Arab conquered Sindh. This is a line which I think I have heard a lot in my childhood, in like different books. I have read this line a lot. In 712 AD, Arab conquered Sindh. Around that particular period only, 730 AD around, in this Gurjara Pratihara, there was a guy who established this Gurjara Pratihara dynasty. His name was Nagbhat. They can directly ask you, and they have asked already, that Nagbhat belongs to which dynasty, you know, Gopal Dharampal belongs to which dynasty, Amogh Varsha belongs to which dynasty, and those kind of questions you can solve when you are looking at the map. So Gurjara Pratihara founder Nagbhat, he played a crucial role in keeping Arabs confined to the Sindh region. These Arab guys, they wanted to come and they wanted to capture this Malwa region. Ujjain was the capital of Nagbhat and Gurjara Pratihara. But this Nagbhat one did not allow Arab to enter this particular area, and that thing you have to keep in mind. Vikramshila, as Sundaram is also saying. Fine. So this is one of their most important contribution. Gurjara Pratiharas, Nagbhat, they kept Arabs in check. And the second part is, out of these 3, they emerged victorious. Fine. And again, we'll talk more about them later on also. If you talk about Rashtrakutas here, their capital was Manyakhet. You can see here, it is also known as Malakhed, which is in current day Karnataka. Fine. Rashtrakutas. In South India, they are active. Fine. Then what else is important about them? Danti Durga was their founder, if I'm not wrong. And the most important ruler, about him you cannot forget, that is Amogh Varsha. Amogh Varsha. He is known as Ashoka of the South. Ashoka, you must have seen that movie, Shah Rukh Khan's movie, Roshni se bhare bhare, bhare bhare naina tere. That means your eyes are filled with light, I don't know. So again, that is a very awesome song of Ashoka, of Shah Rukh Khan. So Ashoka of the South is Amogh Varsha. He belongs to Rashtrakuta dynasty. He ruled from, I guess, 814 to 878 AD. Almost 64 years. And just like Ashoka after Kalinga war, he started following Dhamma Ghosha rather than Bheri Ghosha. Amogh Varsha did the same. He was like, bro, we have to write poems, we have to write stories. What is there in the war? So he write a poetic, you know, a very good book, which is known as Kavi Raja Marga. But again, as you can like understand here, these days also people say that sometimes you take credit for others' work when you are a king. So maybe we don't know, but again, it is attributed that Kavi Raja Marga was written by Amogh Varsha. Some people also say that no. Amogh Varsha took the credit for Kavi Raja Marga. So these are some small facts which you have to keep in mind. We'll talk about them in detail later on, but the major purpose is keep a tab on the map. This map is very important from exam perspective. Fine, sir. So then the second scenario, although Gujra Pratyara will emerge victorious out of that tripartite struggle, but finally no one is the winner because they will break apart. These infightings weakened all three of them. So there is a lesson for all of us here that Gujra Pratyara will get divided into these kingdoms about whom we'll talk later on, and then Senas and Ganga succeeded Palas. Rashtrakutas also got divided into Chalukyas, Pallavas took advantage of it and expanded their empire. All these things happened. All three lost the battle. Nobody won. Although, in figuratively, Gujra Pratyara won. Now, we have read some theory. We have done one question. Let's take a break from theory. Let's do second question of the day. We have 8 more questions after this. So the question is, which of the following statement regarding the pottery discovered at the site of Indus Valley civilization are incorrect? A. The majority of unearthed pottery comprises finely crafted wheel-made wares. B. The northern black polished ware distinguished by black paint and a highly lustrous finish was a prominent feature. C. Recurring themes in the pottery include trees, birds, animal figures and geometrical patterns. D. Some pottery items exhibit. Why I am reading? Because there are some people whom we have discussed earlier are differentially abled also who cannot see but attend my class. I'm very happy they do. So D option is some pottery items exhibit perforation featuring a large hole at the bottom and small holes along the sides indicating their use for straining liquor. So what is the answer according to you? And again, solve this question and then you can go back and also revise whatever we are discussing if you are making mistakes in those kind of questions. I will give you 10 more seconds. Guru has given the answer. And yes, the answer is B, northern black polished ware. Bro, we have talked about pottery. We have talked about pottery when we have discussed Chalcolithic and IVC lecture. The mnemonic is BOPN. Black and red ware, ochre colored pottery, painted grey ware, northern black polished ware. Northern black polished ware came at the last. It did not arrive during the period of Indus Valley civilization. It arrived much later, 600 BC around, Mahajanpad period around. So how will you find northern black polished ware in Indus Valley civilization? They are asking you incorrect statement. And as Guru said, the answer is B. And also Sundaram now. So this is again, these are tricky questions. So you have to revise your stuff, the stuff which you have earlier done. And this was the thing which we have discussed when we were reading Chalcolithic period and IVC. This is around rough estimation. So if you see this black and red ware, you will find it during the period of Indus Valley civilization a lot. Ochre colored pottery, maybe few. Painted grey ware, not at all. During IVC, northern black polished ware, not at all. So remember these are important from exam perspective. Let's go to the theory now. So now we are currently in early medieval India. What is happening here? We have just seen they have a strong feudal character. So what is happening? When so much fragmentation is there in your country, then the intermediaries will increase. So let's say there is king here and then there will be, what is happening in this particular period? We have just seen the trade has declined. The land grants will increase. Land grant system we have already seen that increased during the Satvahana period. And it reached, like feudalism reached its peak, people say that during the post-Gupta period or during the Gupta period only, later part, feudalism started gaining traction because the trade declined, people started giving money in the form of lands, that this is the land, you take revenue, certain portion of revenue from it and give me the remaining portion, give king the remaining portion. The more land grants, the more feudal structure, the more intermediaries. I will let you make you understand why this. Let's say king gave a particular piece of land to F1, right? And he said that take certain percentage of the revenue from it and give me the rest. And then F1 did one thing, he gave this particular land to F2. that you take this percentage, give me the remaining amount. And that's how this whole system started. So there is a strong feudal character, and all these things are happening because the money is reducing. We are going agrarian in nature. The king is getting, weakened to a certain extent. Decentralization is happening. That's what they are saying. Period of feudal consolidation, overlord subordinate relationship here. So he is the overlord, he is the subordinate, and this will go on like this. Hierarchical political structure represented by various ranks. Later on, see, in the period when we were talking about Guptas, when we were talking about Harsha, in the previous time when we were talking about Mauryans, we were talking about different, administrations, Uparikas, Bhuktis, Vishyas, Vishyapatis. But here, what will happen? There will be ministers, there will be, different soldiers. But all these will lose relevance. It is said that after a certain period of time, in this period from 750 AD to 1200 AD, king will become too much dependent on these feudal lords, and the standing army concept will also lose its value. Earlier, in Mauryan period, in Gupta period to a certain degree, the king had a standing army. Now they will be dependent on feudal army. F1, F2, etc. They will send their army to king, and king will fight using those armies. Fine. Then what else? Earlier we had seen these structures, Bhukti, Uparikas, Vishyas, Vishyapatis, and further divisions. We have seen different officers like Uparikas, Vishyapatis. Now they are saying that these ministers or these officers, even if they remain, they have lost their value, because now kingdom is more, or the king is more dependent on feudal tribute. Earlier you have a central taxation system. Here feudal lords, they will take the money and they will give a certain portion to the king. So everything is getting decentralized. The ministers, etc. will lose their value, and feudal lords, they will start taking titles like Samanta, Mahasamanta, etc. And if the king is not strong enough, they will assert their independence. That used to happen a lot during that particular period. So you have to understand what is going on in early medieval India. That's what they are saying. Central feature is, like, even now if you go to village areas, if you have good amount of land, you will be considered, or you will be treated with utmost respect, right? So same thing is happening here also. Land distribution is happening. Whoever is having more land is getting more respect. And because of all these things, I will tell you what has happened. The trade has declined. See, earlier we have discussed fourfold Varna system: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And Vaishya were the people who were doing trade predominantly. It's not like that was like other people cannot do, but that's how the Varna classification happened, right? Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and Shudra means Vaishya people are the ones who are doing trade. But what is happening in this early medieval period, 750 AD to 1200 AD? Trade has declined to a considerable degree, right? So again, everything is about money. Since trade has declined, the importance of Vaishya community will decline. Al-Baruni will say in his book Kitabul Hind, which is one of the major source when we are reading about early medieval India, he is saying that Vaishya and Shudra are almost at same stage, and why he's saying that? He's saying that during that period, if Vaishya and Shudra were reciting Vedas, so for both Vaishya and Shudra, the punishment was amputation of tongue. Your tongue will be, they will be cutting your tongue if you're reading Vedas, Vaishya and Shudra. That's what Al-Baruni wrote in his Kitabul Hind. So the condition of Vaishya and Shudra became almost equal. This you can also understand from this, that during this period we are seeing trade has declined, early medieval India, and agriculture is happening a lot. Now, if more and more people are going from town to, rural areas, deurbanization is happening, more and more people are in rural areas. So agriculture, you have to produce more to feed these people. So we now need people who will do agriculture for us. And now Shudra people, they will be asked that please do agriculture for us. Tribal people, they will be asked that please do agriculture for us. Otherwise, how will we feed this increased population who has come to the villages? So Sudra's importance increased, Vaishya importance decreased during the early medieval period. In fact, there is also a term which is used, which is known as peasantization of tribes. Peasantization of tribes means during this particular period, even Shudras, they are convinced to do agriculture. Even tribal people, they are asked that please do some agriculture for us and help us in feeding the population which has come to rural areas. This is known as peasantization of tribes. So we have talked about Varna system, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Here in this early medieval period, you will see emergence of a group known as Kayasth. You may have still, like you can still, see Kayasth among you and among us rather. So Kayasth people, who are these? They are scribes. Scribes means they are, so many land grants are given because money is there is a shortage of money, right? So there has to be someone who will record these land grants. And who are these people? Kayast. There was a movie, Article 15, where they have shown it like in such a good way that who are you? I'm this and that. He is Kayast. So you can watch Article 15. That is actually a very good movie. So all these things is written here. Land has become a matter of prestige in early medieval period. Any of you who is a Kayast, you can post in the comment section. So greater degree of autonomy in political system. So what we are saying, in early medieval period, so much fragmentation has happened that decentralization has increased. Decentralization has increased. So that means local body, they have more autonomy. Even when you go to south, Cholas are ruling. Here the imperial Cholas. There also they have something known as Uttara Meru inscription, which talks about local bodies, local assemblies. So you are seeing here autonomy in political system as far as lower level is concerned. So that is happening because king has become comparatively weaker as compared to ancient India. So local government you are seeing to a certain extent. Uttara Meru inscription is associated with which Chola king? If you know it, you can post it in the comment section. Fine. We are trying to understand what is happening in early medieval India, because if you understand the chronology, things will become much easier. As we have discussed, centralization has become weak, but king cannot become very weak. If he becomes very weak, then other people will assert their independence. So he has to time and again assert his dominance. He has to fight a lot of small petty wars, so to say. All these decentralization is disrupting the political stability, and that's why colonial historians, they also say this early medieval period as dark age. They keep on saying, like even for postmodern period, they said that this was a dark age. Early medieval period, why it is a dark age? Your trade has declined, too much fragmentation, Arab will come and capture the Sindh area, and then other invaders will come, Qasim Ghazni Gauri and all those. So all these factors they have used. The North India was in turmoil, plundering happened, 1000 to 1026, your temples were destroyed. Multiple reasons they have cited to prove that early medieval period, which we are reading right now, is a dark age, So again, you can always counter it, because you are reading from UPSC perspective. You can always say that, no sir, in South India, during that period, we have Pallavas and Cholas who were making such, monolithic rock cut architecture. Pallavas were making, as we have discussed it, in the temple architecture, and then Cholas were making such good Vimanas. So India is not about only North India. In South India, see how much prosperity was there. Cholas went as far as Southeast Asia. So you cannot portray it as dark age, because you have to take into consideration both North and South India. And again, this is also one of the reason, the turmoil is one of the reason why Bhakti movement started first in South India rather than North. Because if you want to think about, Vishnu, or you want to become Alvar or Nayanar, you cannot do it in a politically hostile environment, which was North India at that point of time. You need peace, and that amount of peace was there in South India, and that's why Bhakti movement emerged first in South India and then in North India, among other reasons. Good evening, Bulbul. So let's continue. And this is actually a very fascinating topic to discuss upon. So again, kingship concept, they are saying here that there is a existence of council of ministers, but you will see, now nobody needs to, earlier you have to read about Vishyapatis and Uparikas, etc. Now you don't need to remember about them, because they have been reduced to just names. Feudal lords, they have become very important. Feudal in character means earlier we had a standing army, now you have feudal army, and king is majorly dependent upon them. As we will discuss later, the major reason of loss of Rajputs against Arab invaders was this feudal army, because feudal army were more loyal to their feudal lords than to the king. And whenever the feudal lords died, these feudal army, they used to run away from that battle place. So all these things are happening in early medieval India. What else, bro? The revenue system. Earlier you had a centralized revenue system. Now they are dependent on feudal tribute. Whatever these feudal lords will be giving them from the lands, they are dependent on that. Centralized revenue system will also not work that much, because the trade has declined. Earlier they used to acquire a certain percentage of the trade also. All these things have gone now. So feudal tribute. Again, decentralization. Now, we have read a lot of theory. So let's do a question so that our mind get freshened up. Third question for you for today. Which of the following is not part of Ashtangika Marg? After this question, we still have a lot of questions to solve. Okay, Dark has given the answer. Ashtangika Marg, eightfold path. We have discussed this. in Buddhism, if you have if you don't know it, you just go and revise it. The mnemonic was visa lame. How you will remember the eightfold path? Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right meditation, or right concentration. So you have right livelihood, you have right effort, you have right view. You don't have right ritual. Anyway, they were condemning rituals and sacrifices. That's why they were part of Gnostic school. So answer is C, as many of you are saying. So cool. Revise Buddhism if you find this particular question difficult. It is not difficult. The first two were somewhat difficult. Now let's come back to our discussion of the day. Major political development in northern India and peninsula. So what we have discussed, that this period saw the emergence of regional kingdom, Pala, Pratihara and Rashtrakutas. Majorly, that's what they are saying. Feudatories were granted. Now again, land along with, we have discussed this. And then if these feudal lords, along with giving certain amount of revenue back to the king, they also have to maintain an army, which was known as feudal army. Gradually, they will assume more and more power. The king will become weak, they will assume more and more power. It's just like when you talk about legislature, executive and judiciary, you may have heard about this, that when executive is very powerful, then judiciary will be not that powerful. But when the executive becomes weak, judiciary will become very powerful. If you see Keshwanand Bharti case, basic structure 1973, or if you see PIL, public interest litigation, and see who were, ruling at that point of time and what was happening at that point of time, you will always realize that one of the three organs assert themselves when the other organs are not working at their fullest. When executive becomes very strong, then judiciary, you may feel like judiciary is not working at its best. So I'm just telling you that when the kings were becoming, weaker and weaker, feudatories were assuming more and more titles and all these things were happening. Again, we have discussed this. You can have a look at it. This map is important. You have to keep on looking at it. So tripartite struggle, Pala, Pratihara and Rashtrakuta. And they are fighting over Kannauj because now the center of attraction has changed from Patliputra to Kannauj after Harsha shifted the capital from Thanesar to Kannauj. Fine. So that's what they are saying. Patliputra, which was an important center during the reign of both Mauryans and Guptas, was now replaced by Kannauj as the center of North Indian political dominance. So now this tripartite struggle, all these are having their own core area. Pala in eastern India, Gujara Pratihara in western India, Rashtrakutas mainly in southern India. First significance, again, we have talked about the Palas, that if we talk about Palas during or wherever they are ruling in that particular region earlier, Shashank used to rule and Guptas used to rule much before that, much before that. If you talk about Guptas, almost 50-60 years before that. So Shashank was the major ruler, and after that nobody wanted to be the ruler. So in a way, death of Shashank created a void, and this void was filled by Gopala, who was the founder of Pala dynasty. So we have just discussed that the prevailing anarchy led the chiefs to elect someone called Gopala as the ruler of whole kingdom. He did not want to be the king. He was forced to be the king according to various records. And in 750 AD, he, became the founder of Pala dynasty. And out of these three, Pala, they ruled for around 400 years. That is the longest. Gujara Pratihara, I think around 300 years. Rashtrakutas around 200 years. But here the number of years does not matter. The battle which they had, Gujara Pratihara won. This you have to keep in mind. Fine. And then again, out of these kings like Gopala, Dharmpala, and then there will be other Palas also. Just don't forget Dharmpala. Even though he will face defeats from Gujara Pratihara and Rashtrakutas, he is very famous because he consolidated his area around the Nalanda region and around the current Bihar Bengal region, and he also gave patronage to Vikramshila University, and that's why Dharmpala is very important. So he spent his whole life in military campaigns. What we have discussed, he suffered defeat. They can give you this particular statement that Dharmpala defeated Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas repeatedly. That is actually wrong. You may feel like, oh my God, Dharmpala is so awesome. He is awesome. But the reality is he faced defeat at the hands of Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas. But he consolidated his, sometimes you take it to your ego and you're like, no, I will commit, so no, you will do something drastic. No, he did not do something drastic. He was a very rational man and he consolidated his own area and gave patronage to Vikramshila University. And then after that there was Dharmpala and then other rulers, but they are not that important. Means Devpala, etc. Dharmpala is actually very important. Gopala and Dharmpala, you just have to remember them. Let's say you had BPSC. If you are preparing for BPSC, then you have to go and dig deep about Palas and, who were ruling in Mithilas and what is Karnataka dynasty and other dynasties, But here you don't have to focus too much. You just have to remember the core attributes related to Palas. And then if we talk about the Pratiharas, Gujara Pratihara, their most important attribute is they stopped Arab, which we have just discussed, and their founder is Nagbhat I. Their capital was Ujjain. So these are the points which we have discussed, and that is what is written here. 8th to 11th century Nagbhat I. And again, if you go back and you see PYQs, which I think many of you are doing, good evening, Priya. So you will realize they are asking these questions. They are asking Nagbhat I belongs to which dynasty, or Amogh Varsha belongs to which dynasty, Danti Durga belongs to which dynasty. So you have to remember the name and what was his major, major contribution. So here, controlling Arabs. Capital at Ujjaini in Malwa. So tell me, we have Mahakumbh at 4 places in our country, So is Ujjaini one of them? Do we have Mahakumbh at Ujjain? Do we have Mahakumbh at Ujjain? Yes or no? Yes. Ujjain is located on the banks of which river? So these points now become important. Mahakumbh is in news, Prayagraj is in news, some stampede happened, and again it happens after every 12 years, this Mahakumbh. It happens at 4 places. You have to find out all those 4 places. That is important from art and culture perspective. Also, Umesh is saying Ujjain, Haridwar, Nashik and Prayagraj. So now you have to also know these particular places, Ujjain, Haridwar, Nashik and Prayagraj, they are located at which rivers? Prayagraj, confluence of 3 rivers, what are those? So these are important points. Fine, sir. Let's continue the discussion. So again, map is important, that's why it is included a lot. And here also, if you see Rashtrakutas, their capital is Manik, it will come to them later on. Pattadakal and Badami. When you look at the map, you realize there are so many important places which you have to pay attention to. Pattadakal and Badami, they will later on become the cradle of temple architecture. It is known as cradle of temple architecture. Which places are known as cradle of temple architecture? You also have to see whether Pattadakal and Badami, whatever temple architecture they have, is it included under UNESCO World Heritage Site or not? Which kind of temple architecture Pattadakal and Badami have? Do they have Vishra style temple architecture or Nagara or Dravida? Which kind of style they are following? Does Rashtrakutas give patronage to, did Rashtrakutas give patronage to Vishra style temple architecture or not? So you have to, these are your homeworks which you have to do. Fine. Pattadakal, Badami, you cannot ignore them. Let's move on. So again, the Pratiharas, what is their biggest contribution? Victory against the Arabs and controlling the Arabs or keeping the Arabs, beyond this Malwa region. That is what is important. And then Nagbhat, he is very important. After that, there were 2 weak successors, and then Vatsa Raja arrived, during whose his period, this whole tripartite struggle commenced or started. And later on, they will be the victors. So Rashtrakutas, their capital is Manikhet. We have discussed this is also known as Malkhed. This is in current. There are other places also which are named Manikheta rather, but this place we are talking about is in Karnataka. Rashtrakutas, we have discussed, their founder is Danti Durga. The most important ruler of Rashtrakutas, it is Amogh Varsha, ruled for almost 64 years, and he believed more in, literary aspects, etc. Just like when you talk about Ashoka, if you go back and revise Ashoka, you will realize that we talk about Ashoka, his following Dhamma Ghosha policy rather than Bheri Ghosha. Many people believe that because of that, even though he did not disband his army became weak, because you have to keep on practicing if you want to be good in something. So maybe they were not practicing too many wars or something, so they became weak, and that weakened army was the reason why Mauryan Empire failed. That is one reason which is given. We can always debate on that. Similarly, it is also said about Amogh Varsha that he ruled for around 814 AD to 878 AD. We have just discussed. He is known as Ashoka of the South. He also, wrote Kavi Raja Marga, and he was also following this Dhamma Ghosha philosophy, so to say. And that also weakened their army. That also led to decline of Rashtrakutas. So there is so much similarity between Amogh Varsha and Ashoka, and that's why he is known as Ashoka of the South. Please don't forget it. This is important. You don't have to do PhD on them. Even if you had history optional, you don't have to do PhD on them, but these are very important points. You cannot forget these names. Govinda 3, you can forget, that's fine, but Amogha Varsha, no, 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 no. So please pay attention here. Oh, just a second. So Amogha Varsha, you know, Nagabha to 1, Danti, Durga, Dharmpala. Dharmpala is easier to deduce. They end with Pala, but these rulers, Govinda 3, he belonged to which dynasty? These are important points. Fine. We have just discussed. 814 to 878 AD, 64 years, preferred the pursuit of religion and literature to war. Dhamma Ghosha rather than Bheri Ghosha. He is the Ashoka of the South. First Kannada book on poetics. What is the name of this first Kannada book on poetics which we have just discussed? Written by Amogha Varsha, or like it is said he has wrote it, or maybe he has taken credit for it. We can always debate on it. Don't kill me in the comment section for that. I'm just saying what other scholars are saying. My views have, like, your and my views does not matter. What author says and scholar say, they matter, or that matters rather. So first Kannada book on poetics written by Amogha Varsha, who believed more in Dhamma Ghosha, or who was the Ashoka of the South. What was the name of that book? Very good, Dark. That is Kavi Raja Marga. When we are discussing the same thing multiple number of times, that means that is important. Manikhet, Malkhed, blah, blah, blah. You can have a look at this. We have discussed all these points. So he was Ashoka of the South. Who? Amogha Varsha. And you can listen to this song. This is awesome. Roshni se bhare 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 naina tere. So that means your eyes are filled with lights. So please watch the Hindi song version only, not the English one. So causes of tripartite struggle. So all three are fighting. All three are at somewhat different regions. Why are they fighting for Kannauj? Because Harsha had made Kannauj a thing to envy about, you know. The center of attraction has changed from Patliputra to Kannauj. Kannauj is a area of prestige. Harsha made it so. And then it is also located in the central Gangetic Valley. It is a fertile area. It is located on Uttar Path. So whatever amount of trade, whatever little amount of trade is happening in early medieval India, that is happening through Kannauj also. Plus, whenever they are fighting, loot will happen. They will acquire wealth through loot. So that's what is written here, why they are fighting over Kannauj. All these points are important from both pre as well as mains perspective. Dar Guru Sundaram, everyone is saying Kavi Raja Marga. Please remember these points. Now the center of attraction is no more Patliputra. And again, if you look back, Patliputra was the center of attraction from, you know, Mahajanpada period, 600 BC to almost Gupta period, almost 1000 years, 1200 years. Patliputra was the center of attraction. And now things changed. And now see, our Bihar is lagging behind in so much, like so many things. And again, when we talk about Bihar, they say that there is one thing which almost destroyed Bihar. And why Bihar is one of the, you know, I am from Bihar, so don't kill me now. So I'm so fearful about what to say, what not to say these days. See, so why Bihar is one of the most backward state, if not the most backward state? Some people say there is one reason, caste politics, all these play a role. But one reason which is which people don't know about is fret equalization. It is said that fret equalization almost destroyed Bihar. Bihar, you know, has one of the most fertile lands in the world, the Gangetic Plains. But still it is one of the most backward areas in our country because of this fret equalization. Do you know what is fret equalization? Anybody has any idea? Fret equalization. Post-independent, Government of India introduced this particular measure. You should know this. They can even ask you this question in pre and mains. What is fret equalization? Have you ever heard this word, fret equalization? Anybody has any idea related to fret equalization? What is fret equalization? So I will tell you what is fret equalization. See, generally what used to happen in earlier times, or that wherever your minerals are there, or even in modern India or pre-independence or in different parts of the world, generally what happens, the regions around where your minerals are there, industries tend to locate closer to them. If you talk about first industrial revolution also. See, here what is happening? History, current affairs, everything is merging. So you have to pay attention. You have to understand this term, fret equalization. 99% people don't know this term. So generally when we talk about industrial revolution, etc. So industries were located closer to the resources where minerals are found. By that logic, you have in Jharkhand, you have so many mineral or mines and all those things. So ideally industries which are scattered now all over India, they should have been located closer to Jharkhand in the Bihar region so that the cost of transportation is less, right? But what Government of India did after independence, they said that no. We want to develop industries all over India. So the cost of raw materials will ensure that it remains equal everywhere. So don't worry about the transportation cost. We will give a subsidy on it. Because of that, what happened? Industries remained scattered. Nobody came to Bihar and Bihar remained underdeveloped. Are you understanding what is Fret equalization? No, I'm just discussing points which comes up, Priya. I will be discussing them in detail later on in mains, but this is important from pre-perspective as well. Did you understand what is Fret equalization? You have to read this particular term. You know, budget, economic survey, everything is in news right now. So these terms become important. Fret equalization, did you understand it? Yes or no? No. That the cost of raw materials will be same in different regions. You don't have to worry about the transportation cost. Government will cover for it. This is one major part of Fret equalization, which almost destroyed Bihar after independence and why they lagged behind in development. There are other reasons, caste politics, blah, blah, blah. But Fret equalization is one of the major reasons. So you can again give this perspective to other people. So now we are seeing Patliputra to Kannauj, the center of attraction has shifted. Why they have shifted or why it has shifted? We have talked about all these 4 reasons. So let's continue our discussion. By the end, who won? Gujra Pratihara won, but they all got weakened, and that's why we are talking about this Kawa Biryani, that is Run movie or something. This guy is awesome. And as we have discussed, although Gujra Pratihara won this particular Kannauj battle, but in reality everybody lost. Gujra Pratihara all these 3 kingdoms got weakened. They got divided into other small principalities. So all in all, हार के जीतने वाले को बाजीगर कहते हैं. That means even if you lose, you win. That you are a बाजीगर. और जीत के हारने वाले को Gujra Pratihara कहते हैं. What does it mean? That even though you won, but you actually lost. And that was Gujra Pratihara because they got weakened. So that's what Shah Rukh Khan is saying here. And you can understand this. Okay, just give me a second. Now, since we have read again a lot of theory, so let's solve one question. This is the 4th question of the day. After that, we have 6 more questions and some more theories. So what is the answer of this question? In Hinayana Buddhism, horse represents what? Umesh has given the answer. Umesh, Dark, you people are the fastest when it comes to answering questions. So horse represent Mahabhinishkramana, the great departure. Again, you can go and watch that video on Buddhism. Mahabhinishkramana, we know. Hinayana Buddhism, they represent Buddha in symbolic form. Mahayana Buddhism, they represent Buddha in anthropomorphic form. And we have also seen the example for it. How can you understand the difference between Hinayana Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism? Like in old movies, 1960s, when 2 people used to kiss each other, you used to show 2 flowers touching each other. That is a symbolic representation. Hinayana Buddhism, symbolic representation. In 2020s, what is happening? When these things happen, they show it explicitly. You know? So Mahayana Buddhism, anthropomorphic representation. That's how you can also remember these terms have meaning here. Mahabhinishkramana, great departure, horse, because he used to love his horse a lot. Dharmchak Pravartan, first sermon. What is the symbol associated with Dharmchak Pravartan? Anybody has any idea? What is the symbol associated with Nirvana? Very good, Bulbul has also given the answer. So Dharmchak Pravartan, symbol, Nirvana, symbol. Don't confuse Nirvana with Mahaparinirvana. Mahaparinirvana is death. Nirvana is attainment of, enlightenment. Dharmchak Pravartan. The symbol is, keep on revising stuff, bros. Dharmchak Pravartan, symbol is wheel. Setting the wheel of Dharma in motion. Nirvana, the symbol is people tree. Mahaparinirvana or death, the symbol is stupa or footprints. So please don't forget them. They are actually very important. Okay. Yeah. So again, I was just doing that question, Bulbul. In Hinayana Buddhism, horse represents what? A is Nirvana, B is Dharmchak Pravartan, C is Mahabhinishkramana, D is none of the above. So the answer is C, Mahabhinishkramana, great departure. You also said the same, right? Nirvana is people. So let's move on. So now let's do one more question on this. Consider the following statements related to Buddhist council. Pay attention to Buddhism. Buddhism and Jainism, UPSC love them. Love them like anything. So let me read the options for everyone. For fifth question, consider the following statements related to Buddhist council. A. Mahakashyapa presided over the second Buddhist council. B. Vinaya and Sutta Pitaks were compiled during first Buddhist council. C. Division of Buddhism into Mahayana and Hinayana sects took place during third Buddhist council. How many of the given statements are correct? Are correct? A. Only one. B. None. C. Only two. D. All three. Jack has given the answer. So Mahakashyapa presided over the first statement is Mahakashyapa presided over the second Buddhist council. No, he did not. He presided over the first Buddhist council. You know, Shabakami presided over the second Buddhist council. So eliminate this option and again go back to Buddhism lecture, revise it. Vinaya and Sutta Pittak were compiled during first Buddhist council. That is correct. Vinaya and Sutta Pittak were compiled during first Buddhist council. Abhidhamma Pittak was compiled during third Buddhist council. Again go back to Buddhism lecture and revise it. Third statement. What happened? Okay, third question, third statement, division of Buddhism into Mahayana and Hinayana sects took place during third Buddhist council. That is wrong. It took place during fourth Buddhist council of Kanishka. So the answer is A, only one, and I'm seeing first time Dark has given a wrong answer. So that is unique. Just give me a second. Cool. So yes, sir. Abhidhamma third, yes. So the answer is A, only one. And which statement is correct? B statement is correct. Let me see if anybody answered it correctly. Umesh has answered it correctly. Okay, Bulbul and other people like Sundaram has also answered it. Cool. This is a tough question. This is not at all an easy question. These kind of questions will help you revise all the four Buddhist council which you have earlier studied in Buddhism. My purpose is also from now onwards, so from last two classes onwards, is revision. Because we have done a lot, we will study new things, but we'll also revise old things. Otherwise, you will forget everything. So first council, Mahakashyapa, he was the president, you know. We have talked about the kings now. Second, Sabakami. Third, Mogaliputtissa, who is supposed to be the 100th brother of Ashoka according to Divyavadna, etc. And then fourth is Vashumitra and Ashughosh. UPSC has asked questions on them, so you have to be aware about them. Let's solve one more question. The following persons came to India at one time or another. First is Fahian, second is Aizing, third is Yuensang. The correct chronological sequence of their visit is A, 312, B, 321, C, 132, D, 123. So let me repeat the question for those people like who are differentially abled, etc. So the question is the following persons came to India at one time or the other. One is Fahian, second is Aizing, third is Yuenzang, and the question is the correct chronological sequence of their visit is A, 312, B, 321, C, 132, D, 123. Very good, Bulbul. Okay, is this the other answer or this answer? So now we have discussed this, we have talked about Fahian and Yuensang, and we have discussed this in the previous lectures also, that you have to remember F and H in alphabetical order. F comes before H, so Fahian came before Yuensang. So it has to be 2, 3. 2, 3? No, it has to be, let me erase this. So Fahian came earlier. Yes. So 1, 3 and then 2 can be anywhere, we'll talk about it. So 1, 3 we want. So if you want 1, 3, that means you will eliminate these two and you're left with 1, 3, 2 and 1, 2, 3. Aizing came at the end, you know. Fahian came first, then Yuenzang and then Aizing. So 1, 3, 2. C. Somebody said C. Oh, most of you said C, right? So 1, 3, 2. Fahian, he came during the period of Chandragupta. It is said around, you know, 405 AD or something. 405 AD. Time period is little hazy of Yuenzang. and means Fahian. Yuan Tsang, the time period is not that hazy. He came around 630 or to 645 AD in between, because he was there in Kamrup kingdom in Assam. And then Aizing came around 671 AD. So he came at the end. So the order is 132. Again, be ready for these kind of questions. These kind of questions has been asked earlier. Fahian, 405 to 411 CE, question mark, because the exact date is yet not confirmed, but it is confirmed that he arrived during the period of Chandragupta II. Yuanzhang arrived during the period of Harsha, 630 to 645, Aizing, 671. That is the thing. And here it is written about Fahian. And again, they ask questions, what he saw, what he encountered, mutilation of limbs, etc. So you can have a look at what is written here. And then Yuanzhang, he is known as Prince of Pilgrims. Please remember this name, that, the designation rather, that who is known as Prince of Pilgrims, that is Yuanzhang. And this is the last guy, that is Aizing. Record of Buddhist religion he wrote, Aizing or Yizing. Now let's come back to our discussion. So we are talking about early medieval India. We have talked about early tripartite struggle. We have talked about the basic features of early medieval India. Decentralization is ruling the roost, which has led to some form of development of local government also. Uttaramerur inscription of Chola king Parantaka I is very famous regarding that. So you are having some form of local government, in autonomy in northern India as well as southern India. Feudalism in India, understanding the concept and basis of feudalism. Here you have to understand Indian feudalism and European feudalism. This is important. UPSC has directly asked a question on feudalism earlier. In pre, we are talking about. This particular thing will help you in both pre as well as mains. How Indian feudalism is different from European feudalism. Let me give you some ideas and then we will look at the slides, etc. So feudalism in India, we understand the concept now. What happens? There are so many, intermediaries between king and the subjects. And there is a relationship of, subordinate and lord and vassal relationship. One is the lord, other is vassal. Then the concept is there of serf. Peasants will become serf. Serf means they will be tied to their land and they have to grow what the lord is telling them to grow. See, understand one thing. It is said that European feudalism is much more extreme compared to Indian feudalism. Just give me a second. Now, if we talk about, I will just show you, I will just write IF, Indian feudalism and European feudalism. Let's try to understand it and then I will show you the slides. So, Indian feudalism, European feudalism. If we compare it, so that our concept become much more clearer and we are able to do option elimination in pre, because UPSC is making tougher questions in history now. So, European feudalism is more extreme as compared to Indian feudalism. And why it is, we will talk about it. Then there are two types of feudalism. One is a top-down model of feudalism. Second is a bottom-up model of feudalism. Let me tell you, before I tell you that top-down and bottom-up, first of all, let me tell you why European feudalism is more extreme compared to Indian feudalism. Anybody has any idea why this European feudalism is more extreme? Any guesses compared to Indian feudalism? Many scholars don't even believe that we suffered anything or we faced anything like feudalism. They feel like this was just a minor intermediaries who were there between king and the subject. Some people feel like no, it was actually a feudalism model. See, feudalism, what is feudalism? When you have too many intermediaries between king and the subject, and let's say the subjects in this scenario are many peasants. So peasants are tied to their land and they are ruled by the feudal lords. Feudal lords will decide what they will grow on their land. If they are not growing, they will be subject to punishments, etc. And that is known as serf. Those peasants will now be tied to their land and they are serf, and they will be facing so much humiliation and so many, punishment, etc. So why we are saying European feudalism is more extreme? Again, let's go back to Europe. When we were talking about colonial legacy, when we were talking about forest cover, which is 33%, we have discussed that they have a temperate climate, and it is said that in Europe, they used to get 4 months of sunshine in a year, 4 months of sunshine. In India, you have 12 months of sunshine, tropical region. you have 12 months of sunshine. There is no dearth of crops. In like we can grow two types of crops, Kharif and Rabi. In between we also have Zayad. They don't have that luxury. They have 4 months of sunshine in 12 months. Each day is very important for them, and that's why they have to pressurize their peasants that please grow this, please grow that, otherwise their people will die of hunger. And that's why it is said that European feudalism is much more extreme compared to Indian feudalism. In Indian feudalism, there was no such scenario that, oh no, if you don't grow, one day our people will die, because we know we had fertile soil, we had sunshine all through the year, so we don't need to worry about food crops that much. But European people, they need to worry about it. So that's why, that is one of the major reasons why European feudalism was very extreme. And then there are concepts: top-down model of feudalism, bottom-up model of feudalism. It is said that Indian feudalism is top-down model and European feudalism is bottom-up model. What does it mean, top-down model and bottom-up model of feudalism? Let's say I make that particular diagram. Let's say the king is here, and let's, for simplicity purpose, let's say that there is only one feudal lord and then the peasant or serf is here. So it is said that in Indian feudalism, the relationship between king and the feudal lords, that was much more, strong as compared to the feudal lord and the serf or the peasant. On the other hand, when we talk about European feudalism, if you make the same setup, king, feudal lord and serf, here the relationship between feudal lord and serf was much more strong, because the feudal lords has too much pressure. He has to grow, ensure that sufficient amount of crops is grown. So he will go to his lands and ensure that these guys are growing the crops. So there was a kind of bond which developed, good or bad bond, we can talk about it. So it is called that this particular feudalism in Europe was bottom-up feudalism, whereas in India we had top-down feudalism, where king was more attached to feudal lords. He needed a standing army, blah blah blah, or feudal army for their fightings and everything. So king and feudal lords the bond became more strong. Here the feudal lords don't have to go to serf again and again to ensure whether they are growing crops or not. They don't care, because they know if one will not grow, other will grow, and we have so much fertile soil, so much sunshine. So this is a top-down model of feudalism which we have in India. So please keep these points in mind. This is important. This will help you in distinguishing Indian feudalism and European feudalism. Then there are other differences, but these are important differences. If UPSC dig deep into feudalism, they have already asked a direct question on feudalism. If they dig deep, now you know the concepts, your concepts are much more clearer when it comes to feudalism. Now let's go back and let's read about all the things which will help us understand what was happening in, early medieval India, 750 AD to 1200 AD. So now again, please understand one thing: feudalism, as we have just discussed, thrives on decentralization. The weaker the king is, the more feudal setup you will see, the more intermediaries you will see, right? And when centralization will emerge, the less feudal lords you will see, the less feudalism you will see. And that's why this feudalism thing, which will become, paramount in early medieval period, 750 AD to 1200 AD, they will die a slow death during the Delhi Sultanate period, when the degree of centralization will increase. I'm not saying it, Marxist historians and other people are of that view, and that is mostly agreed. Okay. So that they are Marxist historians who comprise the, major section of historians at one point of time, dominant views. They are saying that one of the striking feature of early medieval period was this feudal element, expansion of intermediaries between king and the subject. So again, there is a talk here. Please understand one thing: this particular feudalism concept and sub-infeudation concept, you have to remember these words. Sub-infeudation. What is sub-infeudation? So what is sub-infeudation? We have just seen for simplistic purpose that there is one, or let me make simpler diagram. Let's say there is king. He gave his land to feudal lord 1. He gave his land to feudal lord 2. He will give it to feudal lord 3. He is directly dealing with the serf. This is sub-infeudation. This also leads to a phenomena which is known as absentee landlordism. Absentee landlordism, which you will see in the period of permanent settlement and other revenue settlement, which we will talk about. That some of these feudal lords, they don't care at all. They will never go to the serf. And that's why in India, we have a top-down model of feudalism compared to European feudalism, which was a bottom-up model of feudalism. So again, these terms are important. What is sub-infeudation? King gave a land to one person, he gave it to another person, and that's how this whole setup started. Some people even believe that sometimes what happened, there were around 50 hierarchies. From king, this whole thing started and went up until there were around 50 feudal lords in between king and the serf. That's how that's how sub-infeudation expanded. So that's what they are saying. There is an overlord, there is a subordinate, and this system will keep on expanding if the king is weak. So rise of feudalism, the basis here is land grants. And the basis of land grants also we have seen during the Satvahana period, we had seen evidences of land grants. And again, if you want to read more about Satvahanas, we have talked about it in the post-modern period. That lecture you can have a look at it, right? So land grants also arises. Why kings issue lands as grants? Because they don't have enough cash. That also sometimes leads people to think that maybe the trade declined, currency circulation declined. So all these things started in Satvahana period, gained traction in the aftermath of Gupta Empire. This also you can deduce now. The trade decline between Guptas and the Roman Empire. So because of that, the currency circulation declined, land as a commodity, the value increased. And when the land grants will increase, these feudal elements will increase. And again, we have discussed all these things, so you can have a look at it. General features of feudalism, all these things we have discussed, so you can have a look at them. I am not talking about them. Practice of sub-infeudation we have discussed. King gave land to one person, he gave it to another, and this will go on and on. We'll talk about some very interesting features here. Vishti or bonded labor. See, during the Gupta period also, Vishti settlement or Vishti, the feature of Vishti was there, bonded labor was there. And during the Gupta period, Vishti or this bonded labor was seen as a service to the kingdom. You are doing a service to the king and you are doing a certain amount of Vishti or bonded labor. And this process went on and on and on during the Indian feudalism. Now, many people believe that this Vishti or bonded labor in Indian feudalism is very lenient compared to Vishti or bonded labor which you see in European feudalism. But there it was obviously not known as Vishti. It is a term specific to our Indian subcontinent. The bonded labor concept. Again, you can now understand why in European feudalism, the bonded labor concept is so extreme. They have 4 months in a year, bro, where they have proper sunshine. They have to make use of each and every day. So the pressure will be there and, the serf will be tied to their land and sometimes feudal lords will exercise extreme pressure on them. So the bonded labor concept was much more extreme in European feudalism. Here, what was the bonded labor? Some scholars, historians cite that sometimes these serf, they would, bring some milk for the feudal lord, etc. So the level of bonded labor or Vishti was comparatively lesser in Indian feudalism compared to European feudalism. Fine. Sharecroppers Adhyadar system we still have in our country where you are the owner of the land but somebody else is working on your land and he will take a portion of it and give you the remaining. Adhyadar, sharecroppers. And that's why when we will talk about, post-independence in the mains lecture, you will talk about abolition of the zamindari system, land to the tiller concept. Whoever is cultivating on the land, that land will belong to him or her. So all these things we'll talk about later on also. Fine. Economic implications. Now, this is important. Here, you can understand most of the things because your concept is already clear, but here we have to focus on important terms. Just like we were talking about threat equalization, which emerged out of a particular, term or something. Here also there are certain terms like what is a closed economy? You have to understand this term. And then which country in the current world setup is close to or is a closed economy, if there is any. If there is none, which country comes closest to being a closed economy? All these things we have to understand. So here again, economic implications, they are saying new kind of land distribution happened. There is a hierarchy here, agrarian structure. The people earlier, the people who were doing trade, they had more value, Vaishya community. Now the people who are involved in agriculture, who have more lands, they have more importance. Vaishya community importance declined. Shudras importance increased because they started doing agriculture. People needed, other people to do agriculture for them. All these things. Peasantization of tribes happened because now you need people, more and more people are coming to the village area. You need people to do agriculture. So agrarian structure, closed economy. Anybody has any idea what is the meaning of the term closed economy? R.S. Sharma, he is a very famous historian whom you are seeing here. Closed economy, closed economy, closed economy. What is a closed economy? So closed economy is an economy or where no export, no import takes place. They are self-sufficient. During this particular period, Al-Baruni wrote his Kitabul Hind or Tahqiq-e-Hind. He says that Indians believe that there is no country but theirs, no religion but theirs, no food but theirs, no religion but theirs. That shows insularity. Insularity means you are not even seeing what is happening in other parts of the world or even in the northwest frontier province or Afghanistan region, etc., you are just thinking that you are the best. You don't know even what is happening outside. So insularity, closed economy in a way promotes insularity. So no import, no export, that is a closed economy, as Pradeep is saying. So can you give me any example in the current setup, like any country in the world which is very close to being called a closed economy? What is the example of a closed economy according to you? Any country in the world which is a closed economy? Any example which you feel like? There is no country in the world today which is a closed economy, because some amount of import and export happens between like all the countries. But many people say that Brazil, and you cannot guess it. You may feel like North Korea or China or something. China you will never say, but North Korea many people say. But Brazil, according to various experts, Brazil comes very close to being called a closed economy. You can search or research on Brazil and why it is very close to being a closed economy. As you can understand, they produce their own goods and they do very little import, very little export. So this is a case study for you, and this is also important from perspective. What is closed economy? Which country comes close to being called a closed economy? That is Brazil. And read about Brazil. As Sundaram is saying, North Korea. So again, all these things they are talking about, that here trade is not happening. You are becoming a closed economy. No import, no export, just focusing on the villages, focusing on your self-sustenance. And that is what is happening during this particular early medieval period when feudalism is at its peak. Now, what are the political implications? That decentralization will happen and they are looking for king to become weak and they will assert their independence. All these things they are saying. Pyramidal structure is there, king, then these feudal lords, and then the serfs. Standing army gradually being replaced by feudal army. We have discussed this multiple times today, and that is one of the prominent reason why Rajputs lost at the hands of Arab invaders. Arab invaders, they had a proper standing army. They had something called as Ghazi spirit. What is this Ghazi spirit? We'll talk about later on. They have, superior cavalry infantry. They have horseshoe, iron stirrup. What are these horseshoe and iron stirrup? We'll talk about it later on. So all these things plus standing army. Feudal army, we know they are more loyal to their feudal lords than to the king. Feudal lords die, they will run away, and that is one of the major reasons why Rajputs lost to Arab invaders. Social implication of feudalism. This is a very interesting point which we have just discussed. Feudalism, agrarian structure. Traders are losing their importance because trade has declined. Vaishya community will lose their importance. They are now at par with Shudras. I am not saying it. Al-Baruni is saying it. And the book name of Al-Baruni is Tahqiq-e-Hind or Kitab-ul-Hind. And what he is saying, see, and that's what they are saying. Declining trade and craft led to the decline of Vaishya, and at the same time, many Shudras took to agriculture. Because now people are requesting them, please do agriculture for us, sir, otherwise we'll die of hunger. And so there was rise in the status of Shudra. What is Al-Baruni saying? That both were punished with amputation of tongue for reciting Vedas. Ideally, Vedas, they cannot recite, Brahman people, they will be reciting it, or in some cases, Kshatriya. So now, even earlier, Vaishyas were also, allowed to recite Vedas, Dvijas. But here they are saying that no. Even Vaishya community are now at par with Shudras, and both these communities had their tongue amputated if they are reciting Vedas. Maybe it is an exaggeration. Maybe it is not, but that shows that the condition of Vaishya are declining, and that also shows how money matters a lot in society. Some people say, money does not matter, money will not bring you happiness. First earn that amount of money and then give lecture about money, Money matters a lot. It is not everything, but it is close to being everything. It will give you so many things. So yes, earn money, fair ways, but yes, earn money. And we are learning our lesson from history here. Okay. Social implication we are seeing again, because land grants are increasing, you need someone to write about these land grants, record these land grants, which will lead to emergence of scribes, emergence of a new caste called Kayast. In Article 15 movie, there is a very intense discussion, very light-hearted discussion as well. It is intense, at the same time light-hearted, where you can see who are you, which caste you belong to. I am this, I am Maithil Brahman, he is this, he has this gotra, something like that. Awesome movie. You can watch this movie, awesome movie. Again, not now. Study for prelims now. So peasantization of tribes, the people are looking for more and more people to do agriculture. Agriculture has become that important, and tribal people, they are also involved in agriculture to a large extent. Generally, tribal people, what they do? Shifting cultivation, zooming cultivation, and blah blah blah. They will be pastoralism, hunting, gathering. But here they are being forced to become peasant, and that is peasantization of tribes. Decline of feudalism. When will feudalism decline? When decentralization will decline. What does it mean decentralization will decline? When centralization will increase. When will centralization increase? When Delhi Sultanate will arrive. Why? Because they are autocratic. They have so many bad elements about them, but one thing is they will centralize authority, and then these decentralized elements will start going down and down and down. So studying history with you taught many things, how money drives power. Yes, money does drive power. Sad but true. So decline of feudalism, again here they are saying the same thing. Foundation of Delhi Sultanate in 1206 led to political centralization. And now here there is a question, Ikta system. Somebody asked me in one of the comment section that whether I'll be teaching them about Ikta system, Mansabdari system or not. So let me have a small discussion here. We'll have a detailed discussion later on. So when we'll talk about Delhi Sultanate, we'll talk about Iktadari system, and then when we'll go to Mughals, we'll talk about Mansabdari and Zagirdari system. So anybody has any idea what is the basic difference between these three, or what are the basic differences between Iktadari, Mansabdari and Zagirdari? Let's have a basic understanding of them. So you have something known as Iktadari system. Okay, so Iktadari, let me make something like this. Here I will be writing about Iktadari. And let's say there is something known as Mansabdari. Understand the difference between these words. These are important, very important. And I think class 7th NCERT chapter 2 or 4 or something, they have talked about the basic difference between these three. Iktadari, Mansabdari and Zagirdari. Iktadari, Delhi Sultanate period. Mansabdari, Zagirdari, Mughal period. Basic difference. So I will give you 10 seconds and then I will start. If you have anything to add regarding Iktadari, Mansabdari and Zagirdari, you can add. Okay, so let me start. So Iktadari system, Delhi Sultanate, I will just write DS. So in this period, these the officials who were working, they were assigned Iktas. Iktas, they are known as land, and they were assigned to Iktadar. The officials were called as Iktadar, and they are also known as Mukti. So Iktadar and Mukti are same, not different. So what is Iktadari system? It was prevalent in Delhi Sultanate period. Later on, these same features were adopted by Marathas, Vijayanagar, but the name nomenclature will change. Even Mansabdari system has tenets of Iktadari. So Delhi Sultanate, land were called Iktas. The officials whom they were assigned were called Iktadar or Mukti. So now here in Iktadari system, what will happen? These Iktadars, they have to stay on their own land, these Iktas, and they have to maintain law and order at their places, wherever they are, in whichever Iktas they are living, they have to take out revenue from those Iktas. They have to send a certain percentage to the king, keep a certain percentage with them, and they have to maintain law and order in their Iktas. So that is the basic meaning of Iktadari system in Delhi Sultanate, Then Mansabdari system. So Mansabdari system means what? So here also there are officials who are known as Mansabdars. Mansabdars. So Mansabdars are the names of the officials in Mughal period. What they have to do is they have to maintain something called as Jat and Sawar. So Jat and Sawar means they have to maintain some horses, they have to maintain some horsemen. That is their work. Mansabdar, they have to maintain some horses, they have to maintain some horsemen. Good Sawar in Hindi. So Mansabdars, fine. And these guys, they will keep a tab on these Jat and Sawar, and whenever king requires, they will bring their Jat and Sawar for fighting in the war, fine. Then if these Mansabdars, they are paid in lands, here the lands are known as Zagir. Then the Mansabdars will also become Zagirdars. Pay attention here, these are tricky words. So Mansabdars, they are officials in Mughal period. Their major work is to maintain Jat and Sawar. Jat and Sawar means to maintain horses and horsemen so that they are ready for battle at any point of time. Fine. When Mansabdars are paid in lands, the lands are known as Zagir and they also become Zagirdars. But when Mansabdars are paid in cash, then they are not Zagirdars. So Mansabdars and Zagirdars, it's not like they're poles apart. Hope you're understanding the basic concept here. In the case of Iktadari system, what we have seen, and I'm not saying it, class 7 chapter 4 is saying it. In the case of Iktadari system, these Iktadars or Mukti, they have to stay in their Ikta. where that land is there and maintain law and order. Here, Mansabdars are not forced to stay in their land. They can stay anywhere. They just have to maintain a certain number of Jat and Sawar. So please make sure that you understand these concepts. Are you understanding what we just discussed? Iqtidari, Mansabdari and Zagirdari. You can rewind this, you can listen to it again, and I think you can go back and you can have a look at class 7, chapter 4, NCERT we are talking about. There also they have discussed it. I think in page 2 or 3, I will even share that particular NCERT with you. Fine. So let's continue our discussion. So decline of feudalism, again, when the Delhi Sultanate will come, when the centralization will increase, this feudalism will decline. And that's what they are saying. Growth of cash economy. Feudalism also thrives on land grants. So when the cash economy increases, when the trade increases, the feudalism will decline. Indian feudalism versus European feudalism. This we have discussed. What is the basic difference here? How European feudalism was more extreme because they had 4 months of sunshine. So they had to put pressure on their peasants or serf to grow crops. All these things are written here. Kharif crops. Whenever we talk about crops, we talk about mnemonics. I have already told you the mnemonic to remember Kharif crop and Rabi crops. UPSC has asked which of the following are Kharif crops multiple times earlier in PYQs. So what was the mnemonic for Kharif crops and what was the mnemonic for Rabi crops? So Mansabdar are not revenue officials. Mansabdars are the officials who have to maintain Jat and Sawar mainly, and they have to, they can take out the revenue from these lands, but they don't need to stay in these lands. In fact, there are different officials, Umesh, for that. The basic difference, revenue official is not the point here. The point here is they have to maintain Jat and Sawar. They are paid in, if they are paid in land, if they are paid in Jagir, then in that scenario, they have to extract the revenue from their Jagirs. But if they are paid in cash, in that scenario, they will not be revenue official. The point which I told you, that point was actually important. In the case of Iqtidar, they are also the revenue officials. Obviously, they will have their subordinates, but yes, they have to also take out the revenue, give certain part to the king and keep certain part with themselves. Fine. Kharif and Rabi crops mnemonic. You people have forgotten. Please go back and watch the previous lectures. The mnemonic for Kharif crop was Kobama ki tu jori. Cotton, bajra, maize, tur, jowar, rice. Rabi crop is V ba gram. Wheat, barley, gram, rapeseed and mustard. Please don't forget them. Questions are asked on them. And then we have seen the differences. In India, we have almost 10 months of sunshine, We can grow, Rabi crop, Kharif crops. In some areas, you have 12 months of sunshine. So you don't require deep labor intensive digging. You don't need to put too much pressure on your peasants or serf, So productivity of land is also much higher in India as compared to Europe. So that's what they are writing, how Indian feudalism is different from European feudalism. You can have a look at this. We have discussed this, that the beggar or tide labor or vishti in Europe was much extreme as compared to India. Now, let's come back. We have talked or we have solved 6 questions up until now. We have to solve 4 more. 7th question is in front of you. In the context of post-Harshvardhana period in northern India, how many of the following statements accurately describe the tripartite struggle for Kannauj? First, the struggle primarily involved conflicts between Rashtrakutas, Palas and Pratiharas. Second, the struggle commenced under the rule of Vatsaraja, prominent leader of Rashtrakuta dynasty. Third, Palas emerged victorious and established themselves as the rulers of central India at the end of the long struggle. Fourth, Kannauj's strategic and commercial importance stemmed from its connection to the Silk Route. Select the correct answer from the options given below. A, 1 only, B, 2 only, C, 3 only and D, all 4. So B has given the answer. So if we talk about the first statement, the struggle primarily involved conflicts between Pala, Pratihara and Rashtrakuta. That is correct. The struggle commenced under the rule of Vatsaraja, prominent leader of Rashtrakuta dynasty. Is it correct or not? The second statement, is it correct or not? Just tell me that and then we'll delineate this question. This is actually a good question, a tricky question. So the struggle commenced under the rule of Vatsaraja, prominent leader of Rashtrakuta dynasty. Is it correct or is it wrong? Dark is saying it is wrong. If this statement is wrong, why this statement is wrong? Hi Anamika. Why this particular statement is wrong? Fast. It is wrong because Vatsa Raja did not belong to Rashtrakuta dynasty, bro. You have to revise it. You have to remember these rulers because they have asked questions earlier on this. Vatsa Raja was a Gurjara Pratihara king. He was a Gurjara Pratihara king, not a Rashtrakuta king. So second statement is wrong because of that. See, this is so tricky. The second part is wrong. UPSC makes statement like this where they will give one part correct, second part wrong. Palas emerged victorious. That is wrong. Gurjara Pratihara emerged victorious. Kannauj strategic and commercial importance. We have talked about this when we have talked why people were fighting over Kannauj. What were the four major reasons? So first and four, as Dark was saying, is correct, and the answer is B, 2 only. Eighth question. Which of the following is Kharif crop? Bajra, rapeseed, mustard, none of the above. Okay. So Dark has given the answer, Umesh has given the answer. We have discussed the mnemonic for Kharif crop. They ask questions. If you go back and look at the PYQs of UPSC, you will see they have asked questions on Kharif and Rabi crops. Kobama ki tu jori, cotton, bajra, maize, tur, jowar, rice. So bajra is a Kharif crop. Rapeseed and mustard are Rabi crops. So the answer is A, bajra. Very good, other people. Priya as well as Sundaram. Next question. Source NCERT class 12 chapter 5 page 14. So there they have talked about these crops and that's why UPSC generally asks these questions. Mnemonic we have discussed. Kharif crops Kobama ki tu jori and Rabi crop is V ba gram. Ninth question. Erythraean was the Greek name for the A. Red Sea, B. Persian Gulf, C. Mediterranean Sea, D. None of the above. Erythraean was the Greek name for the A. Red Sea, B. Persian Gulf, C. Mediterranean Sea, D. None of the above. And here when we are talking about, let's say NCERT, if I am giving some source, so here we are talking about history NCERT. So Umesh has given the answer. Erythraean was the Greek name for the Red Sea. And why we are talking about Erythraean? Because we have read, when we are talking about post-modern period, we have talked about Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, So there, when they are saying Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, they are talking about Red Sea, Periplus of the Erythraean Sea. And who is the author of this book? Please post it in the comment section if you know it. Source is class 12, again history NCERT. And here we are talking about new rationalized NCERT. Chapter 2, page 17. Here they have talked about it. If UPSC asks questions on it, don't say that, oh my god, from where this question came. It was there in NCERT, that's why they asked it. Last question of the day. Beginning of Gupta rule is known from A. Kalhan's Raj Tarangini, B. Al-Baruni's Kitabul Hind, C. Ibn Battuta's Rihla, D. None of the above. Very good, Pradeep. So beginning of Gupta rule is known from A. Kalhan's Raj Tarangini, B. Al-Baruni's Kitabul Hind, C. Ibn Battuta's Rihla, D. None of the above. Gupta rule, Gupta period. Do revise that particular lecture. We have talked about their starting period. Which particular book talks about it according to Upinder Singh ma'am? Which book tells us about the beginning of Gupta rule? Which has helped us in starting or delineating the early, what is the starting year of Gupta period? Sundaram and Guru, they have answered this question. Pradeep has answered this question. The answer is Al-Baruni's Kitabul Hind. And this I have told you multiple number of times. Al-Baruni's Kitabul Hind, Tahqiq-e-Hind, they give you the starting year of Gupta period, which is 318 or between 318 to 320 AD. And the ending year is 550 AD. But the starting year we are knowing from Al-Baruni's Kitabul Hind. And where you are finding this particular information? In Upinder Singh ma'am's Ancient and Early Medieval India book. I feel like that. Okay. So, Al-Baruni's Kitabul Hind. None of you answered this question. What is the source of that particular question? NCERT class 12 chapter 2 page 23. And here this is history NCERT, rationalized NCERT. Who is this ma'am? Can you take a guess? She has also written one book called Political Violence in Ancient India. She's one of the most famous authors right now when it comes to ancient and early medieval India. Her name is Upinder Singh. She is Manmohan Singh's daughter. Manmohan Singh, our Honorable ex-PM who passed away recently. Fine. So that's it for today's lecture. The more lectures we are having, the more revision you have to do. I will ensure that I give you those questions which help you in revision. But yes, keep on revising the things which you have not done earlier. And again, if you have any doubt, you can post it in the comment section. You can ask now. We are done with the lecture for the day. Any doubt, anything you want to? Upinder Singh ma'am, Doctor of Manmohan Singh sir. Exactly, Pradeep. Any doubt, any queries you have? Anything you want to ask? So 10 is the minimum number of questions which I will bring every day. I will try to bring more, but 10. What according, just post it in the comment section. What according to you is the optimum number of questions in the lecture? 10, more or less? Post your number, whatever you feel that those many questions I should bring. The questions will be of very high level. If you are able to do these questions, even if you are able to do 50% questions, I will bring a combination of PYQs and the current pattern. So yes, what do you think should be the optimum number? 5, 10, write it in the comment section and I will try to see what is the average. Umesh is saying 20. Okay, other people? Anything, any number you want to add on that? 20 will be, too much for me to compile, but I will try to ensure that it is at least 10 and more than that if possible. Priya is saying 15 plus. Okay. So 2 I got 20 and 15 plus. Any other number? 20 would be better, sir, for each topic. So here it's not about each topic, Pradeep. So generally what we are doing is, if we are taking, let's say today we have taken 10 questions. So it's about the revision of the previous topics which we have done. So let's say I have, like today we have taken 1 or 2 questions on the current topic. So let's say we do the next topic tomorrow. So I will do the revision of the previous topics, whatever is important. 10 is okay. So 10 will be the minimum. Questions are real good, sir. Thank you, Umesh. So yes. So 10 would be the minimum questions based on PYQs and current pattern. The maximum, there is no limit to it. It depends on how much time I get to compile those questions, So yes, so that is it. And I think you people do not have any doubt. So I will meet you Monday. Today is Saturday, right? So I will meet you Monday 7 p.m. Please revise everything which we have done up until now. If you have left any lecture, not seen any lecture, it would be better. 20 would be better, sir, for each topic. Okay, 10, okay, cool, okay. I think somebody removed some comment. So yes, so that's it. Take care, be blessed. See you people on Monday at 7 p.m. In between, if you have left any lecture, please ensure that you have revised everything. Take care, be blessed. Tata, bye-bye.